2. Hey everyone, welcome back to Beyond the Case. I'm Crystal.
Hello, I'm Louis.
And today we are going to be diving into a lot of questions that many of you had, a little Q&A for today instead of an actual episode. We're going to focus more on the Cayedito case.
We have been receiving a lot of feedback from you, our viewers, a lot of great questions, and Crystal and I decided I think it's time we address those questions so that way you're not left hanging out in the dark, right?
Right. So we'll start with number 1. Why wasn't the entire confession from Penny Cayedito released? So yes, we do have the entire confession. There's actually 2 parts to it. There was an initial statement from Penny, and then there was more of an interrogation from 2 of the special agents that were on the case from the FBI.
Right. So just to paint the picture on the confession, there was an interview process, and then there was this pause, and then the second written interrogation was posted. And there's many reasons why we did not release the whole thing. We don't want to taint the investigation, right, Crystal?
Absolutely. If they were to pick up a potential suspect on the case, they usually law enforcement uses tactics where they know that the suspect may be the only person who knows what we now know, but we don't want to give somebody any more information than they need to know.
And it's usually information that only people close to the incident know about, right? Witnesses and suspects.
So we are actually going a lot further than what you would typically see for local media. However, we do not want to be, Beyond the Case does not want to be the reason why if somebody is arrested later on in the future, that a defense attorney can use our episode as a way to get his client off the hook. So it's called preserving the integrity of the case. So ultimately our main mission, our main goal is to help out the families that we speak to in these cases. We did share that information with Sadie. We chose to do that because I feel if I were in her situation, I'd want to know as well.
That's right. We did struggle with it, and we had a volley back and forth in reference to the releasing that information to Sadie. And ultimately, the decision was made to go ahead and share it with her because she should know.
I know some folks may be thinking, well, are you pushing this on her because you want her to read it? No, we asked her if she would like to read it. If at any point a family member or another person that we're speaking to on the case, if they don't want that information, we're not going to share it with them. We are not here to push things on individuals. We're here to share the information with them. Okay, so we have another question here, and you kind of alluded to it a little bit. Why are we the first ones to mention the names Ron and Emo?
That's right.
Because we did the work. This information has been in the case file for decades.
Yes.
However, you know as well as I do that whenever you see a typical story on a case like this, it's not going to be in length of 30 minutes to even an hour. And a lot of times you'll see even other internet websites that are going to be covering this case as well, and they didn't mention it either because they're just regurgitating a lot of information that has been said in other media outlets. We did not do that. We actually went ahead. I requested all of the documents. We poured through the documents together. We looked at every piece of evidence, every single statement, and we went back and we did the work again. We re-interviewed people. We called a lot of people. We got rejected a lot of the time.
Yelled
at a few times as well. But that's the difference.
Yes. We are wanting to give the overall picture. And in our latest episode, Sadie was very appreciative of the level and intensity of our investigation, and then of course the production of the results. We can't give you everything. We can't, again, because we need to maintain the sanctity and we want to keep this investigation sort of sterile.
Right.
If that's a good word to describe it. Yes, we want to breathe life back into these cases. We want the families to know that we're in this with them because we want to talk with law enforcement. We want to talk and produce and give you what we know. So hopefully somebody will bring something up, right?
Right. Our goal is hopefully to get some more tips and get this case moving forward in a way that we could bring Anthonette home.
Right.
All right, number 3, there are other redactions in the episodes. You're correct. If you've noticed, I do mention, I say BTC omitted or BTC redacted. And again, the reason for that is because of the integrity of the case. We are giving enough information to give you more information. From everything that we've looked into, I don't see another episode or another group that's doing as much or releasing as much as what we've released. However, we don't want to release, again, too much because we don't want to taint the investigation if and when somebody is arrested or somebody comes forward with a tip that law enforcement is able to say, yes, that is a tip, and you didn't get it from beyond the case. You do know this information.
That's right. And if you notice that towards the end of our episodes, we always suggest that you contact the law enforcement agency that's in charge of the investigation and, send those tips. We want you to call them. We want you to call law enforcement and say, I just thought of something, and whatever it might be. There's no such thing as not enough information, especially with these active cases.
All right, number 4, why aren't we arresting individuals we name in the case? First and foremost,
we're not law enforcement. Well, not anymore. We don't have the authority. We do not work for a certain law enforcement agency. We are beyond that. What we want to do is dig deeper into these cases. From the law enforcement standpoint, when these cases are fresh and they get assigned, there's some attention to the cases, and there's investigative work, there's media coverage, and I will defer to Crystal when it comes to the media coverage. But on the law enforcement side, yes, there's immediate attention and immediate response, and then the hot case sort of turns cold. That's where beyond the case steps in. And the media coverage, well, she's the expert at it.
Well, and that's the thing, is that, as you mentioned, when the case is very hot, you're going to get a lot of media coverage. But as that case becomes colder and colder, a lot of times local media, they don't have the time to put it in a 30-minute newscast. So unless something new develops, you typically won't see these cases again. The other aspect that we have also looked into, and a lot of folks have noticed as well, that national coverage is really kept active by the family members, and usually how prominent that family member is or how much money that family member has. You will see so many cases, like the cases we've covered in Gallup. We've gone to Farmington. We're going to be in Doña Ana County. There's several cases that we've covered where the family members aren't as prominent as what you would see on national media, so they're not going to get as much attention. And unfortunately, that really hinders their cases because they don't get the attention that they deserve. Number 5, why wasn't Penny arrested? We don't know. We don't know why Penny wasn't arrested. There is nothing in the case file to state what steps they took after the confession, because that was part of the FBI investigation. If you watched the episode, part 2, you did notice that we did reach out to the FBI. We requested not only the documents, we also requested an interview. We're still waiting for a response on that interview. Federal government is very difficult to get any interviews or any documents from. They're very, very tight-lipped. But we did our due diligence, and you actually got the response from the FBI.
I did. We filed the FOIA, and which is FOIA stands for Freedom of Information Act, and we requested the documents, the same documents that were in the police report. There's no doubt that a federal agent authored those reports, those 2 confession reports. So we just wanted to know what they have, because there might be more. There might be information in their reports to why Penny was not arrested or not. We don't know. But what we do know is that the Gallup Police Department, the lead agency on this, had those. They have to release them because that's in our state statute, and that's how we got our hands on.
Right. What's interesting about the FBI response, though, to the document request is that they mention privacy interest. And I guess I can understand if the person who went missing was an adult, because at the legal age of 18, you're allowed to leave and not tell anyone where you're going. But Anthonette was a child at the time that she disappeared. So therefore, it would be a guardian who would have to request those documents according to the FBI. And her guardian, we do know, is deceased. She passed away in 1999. We are not necessarily giving up on getting those documents just yet. We're working on another avenue to see if we could get those. So stay tuned for more on that if and when we do get them. Number 6, so why didn't we release names of people, Sadie said, were involved in drug dealing? So the main reason we didn't, I chose not to release any of those names, was because we don't have any evidence they've been charged with drug dealing. Therefore, we have to protect their privacy as citizens. If somebody had something mentioned about you and you were not listed on a document, I don't think you'd want that information released as well. So we don't have that information. If the names that she mentioned were involved in drug dealing, we need to show evidence of charges or convictions or some type of statement that they were mentioned in as far as dealing drugs in and out of that home, and that was not in the case file.
That's right. And last thing that we want to do is report something to you that we don't have the facts. Mm-hmm. We don't want to make things up. We don't want to guess. We don't want to speculate. What we present to you comes from physical interviews, physical police reports, anything that we could, tangible.
All right, so the last question, and this is a big one, about the 911 call for Anthonette Cayedito. We did receive a question about why the entire call has not been released, or we really haven't heard the entire call.
I'm Anthonette Cayedito. Hello?
And here's the thing, is that we did contact dispatch in Gallup, New Mexico. We were informed that they would be the ones that would have the 911 call. They informed us that they don't have it, that they don't have any record that far back. It was not attached to the case file that we received. We're also still missing some pictures. There were never pictures given to us of the Cayedito residence that were taken, I'd say, 4 days after when they did the search?
That's right.
I did reach out to the city clerk's office. I reached out to the city clerk in particular, and I asked them where the evidence is and why is it not in this case file and where that 911 call is. And we've yet to receive a response. The last response I received was they're working on it. So we are waiting, but we're not going to be waiting forever. And we are still working on steps to get that information to you, because as you will see in a lot of the cases we cover, there's typically evidence or documents that we find are missing.
That's right. And, to further talk about that 911 call, it is for us a big piece of this. You remember the child that called said she was in Albuquerque, mm-hmm. But that is questionable for me, because at the time, 911 calls will be regionalized and they would go to that department, that home department, if you will. So, and then we just have so many questions when it comes to the 911 call. This is exactly what we keep talking about when we ask for these records and we don't get them, or we might get some, mm-hmm. and not others. Sometimes we'll be reading reports and we are, going through the cases like, wait, there's pieces missing. Where's the rest of this?
Right. Obviously it's upsetting for us that we can't give you all this information if documents are missing. The bigger picture, though, as to why we point out that pieces are missing in the case file, from documents to audio, video files, is because the next detective that takes over this case, if we don't have it, they don't have it either. So how can they compare an interview from the beginning of the case file to the end if pieces are missing? And that's very crucial to the investigation as they move forward, especially as they become cold cases. You're not having the same detective cover this case from 1986 to now 2023.
That's right. I really appreciate all the questions.
If you have any more questions, though, would be more than happy to answer them for you. Go ahead and leave them below this video. We'll be talking about the Senna Kids case in our next Q&A, so stay tuned for that. We want to thank all of you guys for watching, and continue supporting not only us, but as I mentioned, the more that you watch, the more episodes get out, and the more tips will be able to come in to help these families get some closure. So from Beyond the Case, again, big thank you to you. We'll talk to you soon.